Hello, everybody. My name is Gijsbert Stoet. I'm a professor of psychology. I work in England. I'm going to talk today about the results of the GCSEs 2025, which actually were published today. And it's a very important day for 16-year-olds, which is the biggest group of children that have sat these exams earlier in the year. And what we're now going to look at here in this video are actually the gender differences. Now, there's always a lot to say about it. For example, today in the Guardian newspaper, it said GCSE results live, gender gap smallest ever as pupils across England, Wales, and Northern Ireland receive results. Boys show improved results in major subjects while girls slip back in traditionally strong subjects such as English. Now, I think this is misleading because what you actually see in these data is what you see pretty much every year, namely that boys do clearly not as well as girls across subjects, except a few subjects. And today I'm going to show you which ones. And there are issues. I mean, I think there are issues for girls that we need to address as well in the area of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I'm going to look at that. And at the end, I will give some policy recommendations which would benefit both genders. So let's dive into the data. Um, so first of all, let me see what data I looked at. Actually, I looked at the data for the 16-year-olds. There are data for 15 and 17-year-olds, but they are sort of like very small groups. And age is an important variable in these sort of analyses. So looked at one specific age group, and I combined all the data from England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Rather than you can look at it separately for these different parts of the United Kingdom. Now, there are in total 47 subject categories, and those are things such as mathematics, English, biology, chemistry, physics, and so on. You have health and care subjects. Let me tell you what the top six most popular subjects are. First of all, there is something called the Science Double Award, in which children combine some of the sciences. That is something like that is beneficial for some rather than focusing just on physics. They can learn more about a number of sciences. So that's popular. Then we have English language, mathematics, English literature, and then history and geography. Now, there are other subjects, but then you see that the numbers drop down considerably. So these are popular subjects. Um, Now, let's look at the differences. So we mark these things on a scale from 1 to 9, and uh, grades of 7, 8, and 9, they are considered the so like the A grades, the best grades. And then I looked at what percentage of girls and what percentage of boys get these for these six most popular subjects. And if we do that, you see that except for mathematics, girls lead. Now, in the Science Double Award, you could argue that that's pretty similar. English language, 24% girls, 15% boys. Mathematics, their boys, 3% point difference between boys and girls. English literature, girls lead very clearly. History, girls lead very clearly. Geography, girls lead very clearly. Now, so in this top six, boys only lead one subject. So um, that's already, I would say, given that these are the top six subjects, that is a considerable difference, right? So girls really do better, and I think one factor that plays a big role in that is girls' advantage in language. Girls generally do better than boys in language. You see that across the world. Now, so English will also influence, for example, history, because in order to be good at history, you need to read and also be able to write about it and speak about it. Now, there are 47 subject categories. Boys were falling behind with at least 1 percentage point in 39 of them. So that's 83% of subjects. I think it was exactly the same last year. So I'm not sure exactly where the improvement for boys is, but it's you could argue this is shocking, but we know this for a long time. I've published about this, and there I would say there is always of course there is attention for the differences, but it is an amazing difference, and you could argue something needs to be done about this. But if you look at politicians speaking about this, they wouldn't say, well, we found that this happens again and we need to do something about it. I mean, you don't hear much about that. So so I'd like to see people address that issue more, because clearly this needs to be, it can't be this bad, I would say. Now, at the same time, you could argue, yeah, but even when boys fall behind, they still do really do reasonably well. Uh, they might just get maybe a slightly lower um, uh, grade, but like these differences matter when you need to compare boys and girls, and this is a strong difference. Now, also, I'd like at STEM, because we know girls are underrepresented in STEM in secondary education, but certainly also in tertiary education and in work, and that is often a policy issue. Now, rightly so, because I think in an advanced society, in a modern society where we have spacecraft and AI and computers, you need people who are able to do work with these things, and um, girls need to be able to at least have the level at this age. I would say that they have the opportunity to go further in it, and it's a justified question to ask why they often fall behind. So let's see what actually the facts are here. So with 14, I identified 40 so like hard STEM subjects. So I don't include, you could argue social sciences are social sciences. So, but I didn't include them. Um, so these are the categories. So we have 14 categories, and now I list the ones in which there is at least a 1% difference between boys and girls. Now you see the blue ones; those are the ones where but boys lead. So mathematics, physics, statistics, and mathematics numeracy. Um, and the other ones, girls lead. So actually, you could argue, well, look, girls do really well in STEM, uh, and that's a good thing for girls. And the thing is, it's very hard to get exactly the same percentage for things. So I even so, when we can argue 83% of subjects boys fall behind. I mean, yeah, it's 83%. That's not 50%, but still, I mean, uh you know, it's often the case that one gender will do better than the other. So you need to, I think, take that into context as well, and you need to dive deeper to look into that. And maybe I'll do a follow-up video about that topic. But what is interesting is to look at this actually, because I think this is somewhat maybe then, so I just remember here I showed you that boys lead only in 4 subjects, but if you look at the population, no, so who takes home most top grades on the population, and then actually their boys lead in far more STEM subjects. Now, how come? And that's because of the participation gap. That means far more um, boys than girls choose these subjects, and that is a problem, I think, if you want that girls have a good starting point, maybe going into these fields. I mean, because who says that, at 16 it's so young, right? So should children not have more opportunities? Maybe when they're 17, they all of a sudden discover computing and then they have not done it. So let's have a look at that actually, generally, participation gaps. So if you look at subjects where there are 70% or more of one gender, so these are the subjects where boys lead: other technology, construction, engineering, computing, other sciences, economics, and digital technology. And these are the ones that are girls lead: home economics, performing expressive arts, health and social care, hospitality, social sciences subjects, leisure and tourism. Now, this is actually interesting. So we, you wouldn't be surprised about health and social care because we, as we have published about, we know that girls are often more interested in uh, subjects where there is a component of helping other people. This is a very positive thing. Uh, it's a very big difference, by the way, 95%. So, again, you can question whether we're doing enough to get boys into those subjects. Um, and you can ask, why is that? I think sometimes what probably happens if a topic is known to be very popular with boys or with girls, maybe then some boys or girls might say, yeah, that's not for me because if I'm going to choose compute, well, maybe not computing is not the best example here, but if, I'm not going to choose construction for girls, or I'm not going to choose home economics because then in my class I will only with boys or only with girls. Now, for some children that might be a barrier, so that's maybe something to think about if you want to change this. My advice would be to one way to change it is to make, for example, computing, a key aspect of modern society, make it compulsory. And on this side, I would probably say, although it's not listed, I would say make at least one modern language other than English, or one of the native languages that we have, or like French or German. Make that compulsory. Now, Uh, if we now go to policies, here are my recommended policies. Generally, points, okay? Help boys to do better. I mean, clearly that's needed because it's not that boys do better in 50% of the subjects and girls do better in 50% of the subjects. That is what you probably, you know, you should expect, but there's clearly it's clearly something going on. And I think language plays a role in that. Lots of these subjects, they require a good foundation in language, and if you can't express yourself well, maybe you don't score so well on these exams, or maybe if you can't understand the questions. The second thing is help girls to participate more in STEM. We see, and the good news for girls is that they do really well in STEM, but they're also really underrepresented. So there are lots of girls maybe who do not do so well in STEM and therefore do not even go into the GCSEs. I think that's an issue that we can address, that we clearly haven't, as a country, haven't succeeded in doing that. And the final point is, like a sort of more detailed thing. I mean, what can you do? Well, I would say, for example, in order to get a better balance, in order to help children with developing language skills, make one modern language compulsory and make computing compulsory. So one modern language, like to encourage boys to engage more with language and literature, and computing to engage more children in general and girls specifically in computing. I mean, these are important subjects. Languages will always be important, even though, of course, you could argue we are living in a time which things change rapidly with AI, but it's still the case that if you go abroad, you still will benefit from being able to speak directly if you're maybe as a tourist, but maybe also as as a business person, or you're working for a company. You need to represent your company in France or Germany or Spain. These are important partners of the United Kingdom, and we need to be able to represent ourselves. So I would that those would be my policy recommendations. Well, I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe, and I probably will make some more videos about this topic. So see you again soon. Bye.